Zhongli is finally here. Exactly how good is he? Let's do some deep number analysis and check it out. To begin, can Zhongli be a main DPS? Let's look at his normal attack. Zhongli normal attack attacks 6 times, and on the 5th hit, has a hit count of 4. Know that Zhongli attack takes approximately 2.4 seconds to complete his entire attacking sequence. In comparison, let's compare this to Xiangling's normal attack. Xiangling have a normal attacking sequence of 5, and it also takes around 2.5 seconds to complete. You can see that both of them have a total hit count of 9. Now, if you didn't watch my fischl machine gun video, hit counting is pretty much just how many times a character can score a hit in a given time frame. In this case, they both can score 9 hits in. So for a weapon like Crescent Pike, it'll perform identically in terms of the effects. Counting the total number up, you can actually see that Zhongli total damage does 10% less than a equivalent talent Xiangling. Given that Xiangling's normal attack is already kind of lackluster and she doesn't really do that much damage as a main DPS, from that we can kind of conclude that Zhongli auto attack's also gonna be a bit rough. It's gonna be really hard for him to do damage compared to some of the other DPS in the game. On top of that, Zhongli being Geo element means that he cannot benefit from offensive elemental reactions such as Vaporize or Melt. So for him to be a main DPS, it's just really hard when compared to strong character like diluc or Klee, or even the Geo main DPS counterpart like Noelle or Ningguang. But that's not to say he's bad. In fact, he's a really strong support and potentially one of the strongest support Genshin has ever seen. Zhongli's biggest strength is that he's able to create a shield with the use of his elemental skill, as well as a very spammable low energy cost elemental burst ability. Tapping Zhongli E will create a pillar resonating with nearby geotic structure. The periodic rate is about 1 every 2 seconds, and it will do geo damage to all enemy caught in the range. You can also use Zhongli E to block enemy attack. This is definitely one of Zhongli's greatest strengths, as he's able to continuously provide energy to your team and battering them without being on the field. When paired with other Geo characters such as Ningguang or Noelle, who are both known to have crazy high damage as a DPS, it works really well as you can continuously recharge the elemental burst and spam those abilities. Now, the resonance damage isn't bad either when you pair it with characters such as geomc. With 2 geomc boulder created, we're able to do a resonance damage of 112% every 2 seconds, assuming that the enemy get hit by all 3 resonance, which actually isn't too hard if you just trap them in the middle. With all 3 resonance hitting the enemy, you'll have an effective DPS of 56% per second. Now, in comparison to Goba, which I have a level talent 7, Goba is able to do 4 flame attack over a course of 12 seconds when you factor in the cooldown. So the effective total damage is going to be a 668% over 12 seconds, or effective DPS a 55%. So even though my Goba talent is higher, the effective DPS is actually a bit lower. Now, this is just face damage comparison. Keep in mind that there are pros and cons with both Goba and the actual resonance itself. For example, Zhongli resonance is a lot easier to keep up since you don't have to switch and drop Goba all the time, but Xiangling Goba have higher damage potential since you apply fire status, reduce enemy fire resistance, as well as dropping a chili increasing your attack. Moving on, holding Zhongli E, he's able to create a shield and doing geo damage to nearby enemy, which means you can crystallize them and get even more shield. Having a shield means you don't have to dodge as much, and you can save stamina for doing your charge attack, meaning that overall you're able to push more DPS potential when you need to. Let's compare Zhongli's shield with a recent favorite character that can also provide a shield, Diona. On the left side, we can see that at level talent 6, Zhongli is able to do a base shield of 1952, as well as a 17% max HP shield. However, for Diona, she's only able to do about 1000 base value and 10% of her max HP. Not to mention that at level 80, Zhongli has about 5000 more HP than Diona, so this further empowers the shield on Zhongli. As you can see, Zhongli's shield is a lot bigger than Diona, whose shields was considered already pretty good in the community. Now, another thing I want to drive your attention to is the uptime on this shield. For Diona, when you hit all 5 claw, the maximum you can have for your shield is going to be around 11.5 to 11.6 seconds. However, Diona have a cooldown of 15 seconds, meaning that you're going to go about 3 seconds without a shield, and not to mention you have to refresh it every 15 seconds. For Zhongli, however, his cooldown is only 12 seconds, but his shield lasts for 20 seconds, meaning that his insane uptime on his shield, you're able to keep it up permanently easily, which also lets you tap your E in between. This means that you can upkeep bonus involving a shield such as the Retracing Bolide set very easily, which I believe is currently one of the best damage set actually, because it provides a 40% to normal and charge attack damage, which is really huge for some of the characters such as Noelle or even Chayo. And this is probably going to create a new shield meta. Moving on for his elemental burst. His elemental bursts have a cooldown of 12 seconds and an energy cost of 40. This is definitely one of the most spammable elemental bursts there existing in Genshin Impact. And again, let's do another comparison with this. On the right side, currently, we have the elemental burst for Chayo. In the melee form, he's able to do 650% followed by a 168% if they have a Riptide status on. And this is currently the biggest damage elemental burst there existed in Genshin Impact so far. However, if we take a look at Zhongli's ratio at 640% at town level 6, Zhongli's actually not too far behind. Keep in mind that while Chao is a main DPS role whose goal is to eat the vaporized reaction on his elemental burst to do insane high damage, Zhongli is simply a geo support who is able to spam his meter a lot. So for having this much damage when he's not even a main DPS, this is actually really crazy and high damage. Additionally, Zhongli elemental burst also have a benefit, which is it petrifies the enemy, meaning that it stuns them, interrupting them their combo. This not only gives you free DPS when they're petrified, but also that it gives you a more breathing room, and which is really necessary to survive high level Floor of Abyss. Finally, in case you didn't know, his elemental burst ability actually scales with 33% of his maximum HP, meaning that if you build maximum HP on him, you're not only able to get a bigger shield because his skill also scales off max HP, you'll also be able to get more damage on your elemental burst ability when you drop or when you spam them. This further empowered the role of Zhongli Geo support, where he's able to make your team really tanky while doing a really good chunk of damage. Finally, we talked a lot about number, but let's talk about a build. Starting with the weapon, I'm actually suggesting the Ferocious Lance because it provides energy recharge. For the 5-star option, however, you can of course use the Skyward Lance, which also provides energy recharge. I think energy recharge as a substat on the weapon is really strong. It further empowered the aspect of him of spamming his elemental burst meteors. For his artifact, I actually recommend using the 4-set Petra set if your main DPS is not a Geo DPS. The reason of this is because it's really hard to proc a Geo Crystalline reaction, and so you don't really get a 35% damage bonus when you're using Geo DPS. However, when you're not using a Geo DPS, such as using diluc or Chayo, it's actually the opposite. It's really easy to proc a Crystalline reaction because you can drop Zhongli E and leave it there. So this is basically a free 35% damage bonus for your main DPS. However, if you're running Geo main DPS, I actually recommend using the 2 Petra and 2 Noble set, because that you'll be able to spam your elemental burst ability a lot when you have 2 Geo, each of them providing Geo energy for each other. Finally, as a remark, I think Zhongli is a really strong Geo and a shield support. I think that he's most likely going to be meta defining for a shield meta. I see a lot of people complaining about his main DPS damage being too low, but I simply think that he's more meant to be a support instead of a main DPS. That's it for this video. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you guys next time.